Welcome back, everybody.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh.
Sorry, his name is Josh. All right.
No, I ruined it.
That means I can now call you Josh. You named yourself.
No.
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 You're still Nick.
Oh, I'll be Nick for the rest of this one.
All right. So, welcome back, everybody. Richard here with Nick.
Yes.
We are going to talk about SQL in this one, and in quick introduction to SQL. So, radio. What do we have? We have got ourselves a table called JSON data. Now, this is actually a view or a pointer back to our original object, which we called DF Analytics. So when we loaded the data from JSON, we said it's now called DF Analytics. And then down here somewhere, we've got to play cleanup on these. We said DF Analytics, I want to talk to you through SQL, so create or replace temp view, and we called it JSON data. So that's where we came up with this object. Let's go back to the bottom. And we'll say, rightio. So the syntax for SQL is, if you write select, it's columns that you want to pick out of your table. Star is which columns do you want to get. No, star means just pick absolutely everything. From, then what table you want to get. So if we go like this, it goes, hooray, select star from JSON, and it goes ahead and runs it. And we go, great. You know what? I don't want all of these columns right now. I want to see the events that we've had. What specific event types have we had? So let's scroll across to, where is it? Event type. So these are the ones that came from Unity. Whenever we were sending off an event, let's go to our analytics code, and we were saying the event type is called level completed, in this case for the level completed event type. When we were saying get base events, we were passing in an event type, and then when we were sending an event, we were calling that, we were giving the event type name to the sending. So each event has its own event type name. In this case, we're saying select all the different event types, please. And it goes, no troubles at all. Here are all of the event types. And you go, okay, there's a lot of them.
I should count them.
So before we count them, let's find the individual ones. We've got time-based.
So we distinct them.
Do we have anything else that's not time-based?
There
was something. Session start, session stop. Radio. So we can see that this is going to be a pain in the ass to find them individually. Because if we go, I wonder how many events we've got in there. Let's quickly do this. Count star. We're going to need to count in a second anyway. Count says, get me the amount of rows that you see. And star means just select all of them and tell me how many rows there are. So we've got 537 rows in our JSON data table. So we've been capturing a lot of test data. Whoops, that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to go event type. So when we said event type, we've now got 537 event types in here that we would have to scroll through and try and find the individual ones. Whereas we could then say, no, I want to get the distinct event types. I don't want to see how many they are. Just pick me the individual event types that you see. And it'll go, no worries at all. If I see an event time, I will only count it once. Or I will only return it once. So we've had level start, player spotted, time-based player paths, distance, click-based, and Nick's event, which we had in there from earlier.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to have to remember that Nick's event's always there and account for it.
Good.
Bugger.
Good.
But let's say we want to get, we only want to look at the player spotted data. So I'm going to get rid of this distinct, and I'll say I want to have select event type from JSON data, and I only want to show all of the events where the event type is equal to player spotted. So we can go where event type is equal to player spotted.
If we do a group by without like a count or anything, that's the same as doing a distinct, isn't it?
Yes, it'll get you the same result, but it'll execute it with the group by styling, and so I imagine it might actually be a little slower to do it that way.
So what if you want distinct event type count without doing a group by?
Let's find out. Let's finish off this way first. So we've gone select event type from JSON data where event type is equal to player spotted, and it said no troubles at all. Here is all of the stuff where it's player spotted, and you go, great, that isn't really helpful to me. What about if I wanted to see all of the other data? So I want to see everything where the event type is equal to player spotted. And it'll go, awesome. Now, if yours isn't running fast as fast as mine is right now, then you want to cache your DF analytics because it'll keep it in memory.
Mm-hmm.
So then you'll query it nice and fast. So now it's got every single column that had an event type of player spotted.
Right.
So if we look in our attributes here, we should only see things populated for our enemy, or every single row inside of this result set right now should have an enemy X, Y, and Z position, and an enemy name, and the level name, and where was the player's position? There it is, player's position. The enemy position and the player position. And the enemy that spotted us. And we go, hang on, this one doesn't have an enemy name against it. And that's because there was that very first call that we did where we forgot to set enemy name correctly. So if we scroll down, we can see, oh, now we've got all the Jeffreys.
Cool.
So this is a bit more fun. We can say, let's not select everything. Let's select all of the
coordinates.
The enemy positions, yes, that have seen us. So we can go, I did say I wasn't going to talk about anything Spark specific, but this is kind of Spark specific.
Oh, right. Yeah.
If you want to pick on a column below, so the attributes is the column, but these guys here are objects that are below attributes. So we can go attributes dot ex, ey, and ez.
Z.
Ex, e. Quiet, Josh. E. Z. And if we run these...
That's not going to work, is it?
Why not? Oh, because it needs to be attributes dot.
Yeah.
Thank you. Attributes dot, and attributes dot. So notice that I've picked the attributes column, so I should have everything in the attributes column, and then also off to the side, individual EX, EY, and EZ. And only for the player spotted events. And attributes is a really long column, so we'll scroll across to the side, and there is our EX, EY, and EZ.
Cool.
So let's get rid of attributes. And I want to know...
Let's plot it.
No.
No.
You and your plot. When we're out at lunch, he wanted me to plot everything.
Do it.
Plot it, man. Just plot it.
Just plot it.
Alright, so EY, enemy position on Y, is kind of irrelevant to us in this query. So let's get rid of that. And now we just have EY and EZ. I want to know if there are any counts that are in the same in here. Were we spotted in the same position anywhere? No, we weren't, because there's nowhere we can actually scroll down here. So that example is not quite going to work. Let's get rid of... let's pick on something else. Let's go to Nick's earlier question. So we've now got select event type, where the event type is player spotted. Let's get rid of the where clause. So now it's going to bring back all of the events. And we want to have a count of each of the events. So to do this, we say event type, and I want to count the amount of times everything has been seen. And if I try and do a count on its own, it's going to whinge at me and say, no, you have forgotten to give me an aggregate function. You've given me an aggregate function, but you forgot to tell me how to group them together. So whenever you're doing a count, you need to say group by, and then what do you want to group by? In this case, event type. And now we can see that we've got how many times we've seen each individual thing. So time-based, player path time-based, we would expect to see quite often because it's firing every single set of 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Distance-based should also be pretty high. Nick's event's been firing off a lot, and I can't remember what that actually was. So I'm not
clicking P.
It was clicking. Oh, we clicked P quite a lot, didn't we?
Yeah.
When we were doing the testing.
Yeah.
All right, but now we can see how many times have we started the level since we put the level start analytics in there. We have done it 14, and how many times have we completed the level? Only 1, which is interesting because Nick beat the level faster than I did. So maybe by the time we've loaded this data, that Nick's level complete might not have been pushed to S3 in time.
Maybe.
Interesting. There was that little window there. We saw them both fire. That's quite fun. Anyway, all right. So let's do something else. Nick was saying, what if we do select event type,
No, distinct event type.
Select distinct event type. Count star.
Yep, and get rid of the group by.
Well, what do you think that's going to return you?
Oh, no, 1.
What?
Count 1.
It's going to give you an error because you've just told it to do a group.
Without a... Okay.
Told it to account without an aggregate function without a group by. But if we put group by event data type, what do you think it's going to give you? 1?
1.
You reckon it's going to have each event by 1?
Or maybe it's going to have the just the count be... I don't know. 1?
I don't know what it's going to do either. I've never really done it like that. So let's find out.
No,
there we go. So it's going to give us the same. The distinct in this case is saying, what's the point of me even being here if you're doing a group by, which is going to only give you one result anyway. But this is actually happens after the whole select query happens.
Right.
The execution order is, I'm going to go ahead...
Which point in time it is distinct. It is already distinct, so it's like, we're not going to do anything.
Yeah. All right, so there was a weird one. Let's go back to star from JSON data and let's pick on something else. I want to know how many sessions we have seen against this app ID. So the app, not app ID, my computer's
Client ID.
Client ID. That's the one I'm going for. So where do I find client ID? It's going to be in client. So I can say client dot client ID client ID, and then I also want to have another column. What I didn't talk about is how do you select multiple columns. You just put a comma, next column. I need to find the session ID in here somewhere, which is going to be under session.
You know what?
What?
Sounds like something you could plot.
Oh, we could plot it, Nick. So if we run this, then we will get the client ID and the individual session IDs. But there's a lot of stuff in there, and we go, hang on, let's see something else. So let's do a group by client ID and session ID and account star. And now we'll see for each individual client, when we saw the session, how many times we saw any event happen against that session ID. And there's a lot. And you go, this isn't really helpful to me. What if I wanted to see how many distinct session IDs there was against the client ID? And now we're getting somewhere a little bit more. We could count these guys up together. Whoa, stay still. There we go. We could look at all these and count them up, but maybe we just want to say, you know what, how many session IDs did we see against this client ID? And this is where we get into the realm of subqueries. So we have all of these together, and we can say, put these in brackets. When you do a select statement, you're talking to a table, and the result of talking to a table, the result of querying a table, is a table response. So that means we can now say, select client ID count star as sessions. From this is the table that we're going to select from, and we can call that table client sessions. And now we can put a group by client ID around that. So we're going to select client ID and session ID from JSON data. We're going to, that response table is going to be called client sessions. We have to give it a name, even though we're not referencing that name anyway, we have to give it a name. Then we can say, from that set of table here, let's pick client ID and the count of sessions that we've seen.
Oh, so I was wondering why you could call it client ID, but in a query it's client.client ID, but that's because it returns a table where that column is called client_ID.
Yes, it gets rid of the subnaming because it's no longer a subname. It's now saying I am the top level name.
Yep.
Alright, so if we run this, we will now see that this particular client ID, which is this computer, has had 37 sessions against it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Now, subqueries can get really, really disgustingly ugly and hard to follow, particularly when you're trying to do joins on subqueries, and then you've got subqueries of subqueries, and I really don't like them. They're handy for quick things, but really the way I deal with anything with a subquery is I bring in what's called a common table expression. And you do this. You say with CTE, baby. You say with client sessions. So now we can take this query here, the middle part, get rid of that, put it into a CTE, and let's comment all of this out. To comment in DataBricks notebooks, you press Control/, and it comments everything it's got selected.
Sweet.
If we run this query right now, it should error and say, I have no idea what you want me to do. And you said, because we've created a client sessions object, but we haven't said what to do with it yet. So SQL goes, I'm expecting to return a table. You didn't tell me to return a table. Therefore, I am going to error.
So can I access that table that we've just created in Scala?
No.
Oh.
No, we will do that in the next video.
But can I
We'll
do
show
it
how to
in
take SQL back to Scala.
Can I do it in another snippet?
No. So a common table expression exists only for the life of this individual SQL query.
Okay, cool.
So let's go select star from client sessions. So now we've said there is our individual query. We've got a common table expression wrapper around it. And we can now say select everything from client sessions. And it goes, no troubles, there's what I've got.
Oh, that makes it prettier.
So it makes it a little easier to work with. And now we can go select, well, I've already got these written here. So let's take them. Select client ID, count star. Now I haven't talked about what I just did here. I renamed the column from a result. And we'll see that again just a little bit more in a little moment. We'll describe that a bit better.
In a little moment.
In a little moment. So now we're going to say from client sessions, select client ID and count how many times we've seen it, call that sessions, and group it by client ID. So now we run this and we should have the exact same result that we had before. We do.
We did it.
Great.
It's not as...
So it's not as
indented.
It's not as indented and hard to read. I really don't like subqueries. Just become a complete ugly pain in the backside to work with after a while. When the queries get longer and longer and longer, and then they've got joins inside of them. Ugh.
See, I wish I knew that before I wrote my SQL query at work. It's really gross.
Yeah, I showed a few other people CTEs, and they were like, "Wow, that works! Like, how do more people don't know about these? They're amazing."
Yeah, I wish I knew.
All right, so let's talk about this a little bit more. So let's talk about as. When we pick this query here, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to comment out all of this stuff with Control/. I'm going to select distinct client ID and session ID. Look what it's returned back. It didn't return back the column as client.client ID. It returned back client ID. So maybe I want to call this one as unique
ID
and run that, and it says no troubles at all. Whenever I return a data set from this query, client.client ID will now be known as unique ID, and session ID here I don't want that underscore. I'm going to go as session ID because I love camel casing, and I wish that
I also like camel casing.
I do like camel. I wish that it had better camel caseness or auto camel casing. But there are other reasons why I agree with why it's not there.
Isn't this Pascal casing? Which one's camel?
Oh, camel's where it starts with the little start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Session ID. I'm gonna go with that. There we go.
No.
Now we're cameled.
Cool.
And if you don't know why it's called cameled, because if it was called unique ID from user, there's the camel's humps on the capital letters.
True.
Anyway, so now that we've got this query, we've just renamed the columns. We can now take this stuff, cut. I'm going to select everything and Control// to uncomment everything. Inside of the client sessions common table expression, I will paste the query back in. So now we've said select distinct client ID as unique ID and session ID as session ID or session ID. Let's put a little S there, and we'll run this one. And now it's going to whinge at me and say, "Hang on, no, I can't do that." And it's saying I can't run client ID. I have no idea where client ID is. The
What?
columns that I have is unique ID and session ID.
Oh,
And we
right.
go, oh, that's right, because CTE is now exposing it as unique ID.
So it's like an alias.
Yes. Column aliasing. We're not using session ID anywhere, but when we're doing account star here, if we get rid of the as and run this, it's going to say I've got the unique ID because that's what we've got it as, and it's got count 1 as being what's there.
Yes.
And you go, why count 1? Because it was the first count that it saw. Put it in another count, it'll go count 2. Put it in another count, count 3.
What?
Here.
Oh.
Oh, it's still called a count 1. Damn it.
Yeah, because it's count in the first column.
Count in the first column. Yeah, my mistake. My mistake.
That's what I thought. Yeah, anyway.
Damn it. My bluff.
Who's,
My bluff failed and Nick called me out on it. Yeah, well, my mistake. Anyway, so, right. So we named the column, but if you were to put a count in here, count star, and run it, what's it whinging about here?
you didn't group it.
I didn't group it by here. Group by, when we're grouping by, now when we're grouping by, it hasn't actually done the name change yet, so we have to call it by the old name.
Oh, so that's like the last thing it does is alias it
Yeah.
probably.
Yep, so now we run this and it'll say cool, and note that I have to put client.client ID in there, not client ID,
Mm-hmm.
because it says I need the full path to get there. What was I going for here? There was something that I was
You
going
want
for
to
here.
as that.
Yeah,
count
I can
probably.
as this, but if I say, well, what's the column called? Count 1?
Cool.
So from here it's going to be called count 1. So we'll go count 1.
What? That won't work with it. What?
And you go, hang on, what did you just count? It said I counted the first column because this is column 1. This is column 2. Next one's column 3. So whenever you're doing a count, whenever you have an aggregate function, the name is going to be funny. Always put, so that you can use it in another query, you have to give it a name. As, we'll call this one, hello there. Why can't we get hello there? Because I got a group by. If we're grouping by and we don't have an aggregate function to tell it what to do with it, it'll go, I have no idea what to do that. And it tells you here, hello there is neither present in the group by, nor is it an aggregate function. Alright, cool. So in this case, hello there is the count of what it sees here.
Okay.
So this is a weird query. I'm just trying to show as. This is a weird query, and I don't think there'd ever be a reason you do what we've just done.
Okay. Can you do a... So if you put count 2 in the last select.
In this one?
Yep.
Count 2?
Yeah, go it.
What do you think it's going to do?
Just count each of the columns in, count each of the row in column 2.
I think it's going to give an error.
What?
Because it's going to say this is an aggregate function, and you forgot to give me the group by.
Well, yeah, we'll maybe do that then.
Hello there. Whoops. Group by, unique ID, and hello there. So this, Nick says, count to, if you're at the bottom cell, then your thing can jump around a bit. I usually just go plus, 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 and get it not at the bottom, and then it'll stay steady with where it is. So now I can double click and select.
Cool.
Quirky McQuirkles.
Ooh.
Ooh, what's it done?
What? To what?
It actually did do what you said it would do. Let's try this set. This is...
What?
It said unique ID and hello there. There were 11 combinations of unique ID and hello there of 2.
Oh, I see. Cool.
So it did group them.
Nice.
So now we're getting into some really weird abstract way of talking about SQL, and it's just getting bizarre.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Let's do something else.
Yeah.
Select star from JSON data.
I wonder how many people we've lost because I've already lost.
Oh yeah, we went a bit weird on that one, didn't
That
we?
was a bit weird.
No, we did a bit weird. Yeah, let's do one more thing, which will be, let's look at we've got sessions. Let's say how many times did the player get? How many times has the player been seen on level 1?
Okay.
So we need to get the level name from somewhere, which is going to be...
Oh no, how about how many times has the player been seen on the left side of the wall?
Well, we have no idea where the left side's going to be. We'd have to go back into Unity and find out where it was.
Yeah. True.
You know what, let's do that, because that gives us a reason to talk about the case statement that I didn't talk about.
Case statement.
Case statement. What? Case it up, baby.
What?
Where is it? So Nick's saying, how many times was the player seen on this side of the wall, and how many times was the player seen on the right side of the wall? So is this the way you're talking about, left and right, or were you meaning...
Oh, yeah, like that. Yeah, like this.
This way?
Yeah.
So how many times were we seen on the left side of the screen, and how many times were we seen on the right side of the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this we can do, because if we look at this, x is 0.
Mm-hmm.
So this line here represents 0. So if you are the left side of it, you're negative. If you're the right side, you're positive.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we can come back in here and say, spotted on left or right of screen. And it's done what? It's a, whoops.
Yeah.
Sputed.
Spoot.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking a different language when I did // It's supposed to be dash dash.
Dash dash.
Dash dash. Every single thing has its own comment and it's a bit weird. Alright, so let's do this. Where, if we're going to see spotted on the left or right side of the screen, we would need to have an event type of player spotted. So we'll say where event type is equal to player spotted. Run that just to make sure I've got the right thing in there. The right value of event type in there, which I do. Yes, event type is player spotted. We need to know if the player was spotted on the left or right of the wall, which is going to be player's position P_X, which lives inside of attributes. Dot P_X, and to show that you can expand this guy out, and then you can scroll through here and find them a lot prettier. So there's P_X, and we'll run that just to make sure it's working. Good. Nice. So we've got some on the positive and some on the negative. Now we do this. Whenever I'm doing this type of query, I always put the column in again so I can see what the value was, and now I can see what the output is. So this gives me 2 columns of exactly the same thing. Okay. But now I can put in case. When attributes p.x is bigger than 0.
Is that a normal SQL thing?
Yep, this is absolutely regular SQL.
What?
So when p.x is bigger than 0, then return
right.
Then we can say when p.x is less than 0, then return left. But there is another one here that we should also be taking care of, which is when p.x is equal to 0, then center. Wait, Australian center. Now we have to put n to say that it's done. But we can also have an optional field here, which is else
unknown.
Odd. Unknown. There we go. So this lets me see what the input is, and also lets me see what the case statement selects. And we'll run this. And oh my goodness, look what it's done. It's taken the entire query and given it the query name.
So you can as that.
Yes, alias that. And we'll call it as side spotted.
That's cool.
Alright, cool. So now I want to count of the lefts and the rights and the centers and the unknowns. We can just look at these and sum them up. However, we've had many players playing for a very long time, so we would want to query lots of these, not just 7. So we'd so we'll say with sides player spotted get this and put it at the top. And now we can say select star from sides player spotted. But we'll go, you know what, that's going to give us the exact same result. That's not very handy. Let's say side spotted and count of those. Group by side spotted. Now we can see that we were 5 on the right and 2 on the left.
That's cool.
So hooray, did that part make sense?
Yeah, that means the right side could be harder than the left side.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then we'll put last part on this one, side spotted, spotted count.
Nice.
Aliasing our column. So there's a very quick, brief intro to SQL. We've rushed over quite a lot of topics there. All the queries that we're going to write from this point forward will be taking advantage of these things. So if you don't quite get it at this point, we will explain every query as we go through it still. So my goal is for the end of this, you should be pretty proficient inside of SQL and understand what's going on.
Sweet.
Any questions, Nick?
No, that sounds pretty cool.
Awesome. Let's finish off this video.
Yeah.